Sir, your fourth quarter survey. Your fourth quarter survey, quite interesting the numbers. I'm looking at the numbers right now. Medyo malaki ang double digit ang binaba dun sa trust rating ni VP Sara from 59% nung third quarter, I think, to 49% in the fourth quarter. The survey was conducted November 10 to 16, di ba? Could you run us quickly through what could possibly have triggered that kind of a drop of 10 percentage points?
Yeah, that's a good point, Ed and Ami, my friends. So actually, may nagbanggit na she has been having a continuous drop in numbers since last year pa. I mean, actually since 2022. After they won the elections, nasa 80 to 90% in trust and performance.
Sir, if I may, sir, ito, I have the graph in front of me. For Sara, from October 22, this is your graph. October 22 was 86%. By November 2024, it's now at 49%. That's that's quite that's
parang nakalahati. That's a lot.
From October 2022.
But we're also seeing her numbers are still very strong sa Mindanao. Nasa 90%.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it's not happening in Mindanao where she's seeing the drop. Kumbaga, consistent. I mean, she's hold on to her numbers sa Mindanao, but it's in NCR and Balance Luzon mostly na yung decrease ay nakita natin. And again, this is a nationwide survey, 1,200 respondents. So plus minus 3% margin of error. And yun nga, medyo, I mean, except for Mindanao, medyo across the board, we're seeing the decline. And you're asking kung ano yung reason? Well,
what could be the reason?
Well, several. I mean, isang hypothesis ko, and I even tell to Ronald Damat about this, that yung mga Filipinos generally don't like yung conflict. Parang we're kind of peace loving, gusto natin medyo mayapa, parang ganyan, parang focus lang sa baho, focus sa mga problems natin, and isa sa mga key problems natin is inflation. I mean, even the survey showed that inflation is still one of the top concerns of the Filipinos. Pero syempre, pag nagkakaroon ng and things that happened over the past month, hindi lang naman yung impeachment. Impeachment is parang end result na nangyari of the culmination of what happened or what's been going on over the past few months. Pero yung nangyari sa Congress, yung after the hearings and yung Quadcom, and then nagkaroon ng yung mga threats. And I think yun hindi naman siya incident na hindi nagpropagate. In fact, it's one of the most viewed news stories nung last year because it reached all over the world. And I think that has definitely affected kasi kung inabot yung mga OFWs sa mga balita, I mean, not just the OFWs, but it gets people talking, and I think yun nga, and that's one of the for me lang, it's just a hypothesis, hindi naman natin alam for sure kung ano yung reason, pero sa tingin ko yan yung isa sa mga reasons kung bakit. And I think aware din naman yung side nila about declining numbers because they're probably getting a survey din, baka may sources sila, may references sila, and if they're seeing more or less the same results or same situation, and maybe that's the reason kung bakit medyo parang nag-recalibrate sila ng mga talking points, ng mga strategies nila. Kasi suddenly ngayon, iba na yung discussion. Yes, they're rallying for peace, and it's more about peace and unity again. So parang binabalik nila yung discussion back into peace and unity instead of yung adversarial na nangyari past the month. Yes.
Hindi sila yung nag-peace and unity, Professor INC yun. Yung mga Duterte, palaban pa rin eh. Hindi. Hanggang ngayon, the Dutertes didn't show up at the rallies and ang messaging nila is still, they're still against the government. So, ang tatanong ko lang, kung ganyan ang kanilang messaging, medyo nag-tone down nung hindi na nagtitreat na mag-assassinate at hindi na medyo tempered na
umuno.
yung choice of words. Oo, kaya lang, kung ganyan pa rin ang posisyon nila against this administration, sa tingin nyo, it will tuloy-tuloy ang trend na yan na pababa?
Yeah, I don't know Ami, if it can still get any lower because,
Yes.
I mean, they're still holding on to some, I mean, sa Mindanao, I don't think na babagsak yung numbers nila sa Mindanao, to be fair. And sa Visayas, they also have some areas na they're still holding strong sa Visayas. Not the whole of Visayas, pero some parts of Visayas, their numbers are still good. Pero sa NCR ang balance nun, I guess it's possible na pwede pang bumaba. I mean, ako, on the ground, I still see some people or talk to some people who support the Duterte, even sa NCR and the balance Luzon. But I think that number's been decreasing. And for the average person, may hindi naman talagang, doon sa namin, political preference, it shows na maraming mga independent-minded Filipinos. And for these people who are independent-minded, sila yung parang sway nitong mga yung mga adversarial events na nangyari nung past years. Kasi yung syempre, yung mga supporter nila, they're probably solid supporters no matter what happens. Pero what about yung block of Filipinos na mga more or less independent? And, that's probably about almost half of mga Filipinos. And, if sila parang mga swing voters natin, and if you lose their support, it's going to be very difficult to win a national election.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, Prof, yung numbers, yung perception, the difference in perceptions between, for example, Mindanao and Luzon for both BBM and Sara. Talagang north and south Kasi for example, ang trust ratings ni BBM, highest siya sa trust ratings sa Balance Luzon, which of course includes Northern Luzon, the Ilocos region. And ang lowest trust ratings ni BBM are in Mindanao at 45. Sa distrust naman ni BBM, highest ang distrust sa kanya sa Mindanao at lowest ang distrust sa kanya sa Balance Luzon. Quite the opposite for VP Sara. Ang highest trust rating ni VP Sara, 90% sa Mindanao. Ang laki. Yan ang trust rating ni VP Sara. Ang lowest sa kanya is Balance Luzon. Sa distrust naman, ganun din. Highest sa NCR si Sara at lowest sa Mindanao at 2% si Sara sa distrust. So talagang nag-north and south pa rin until now.
Until now. And I mean, it's been the case naman talaga na voters tend to support people from their area. For many reasons, hindi lang naman dahil, they just like that person because they're from the area, kababayan nila or something. May economic rin yan, consequences because if there's a candidate na nakupo sa national position and it's from their area, there's a good chance na matutulungan economically. Yes, yung area nila, let's say from Davao. So, we've seen that naman no matter who the candidate is. So basta, from your area, you tend to support it. And pero yung the Duterte support in Mindanao is still, 9 out of 10. Parang kumbaga hindi siya bumaba since 2022. Parang ganun. So how do we attribute that? Well, partly, I'm not in Mindanao, pero I would imagine if the media there is also strongly in support of them, then syempre yung framing ng news and the mga discussions will be still supportive sa kanila. And so people from that area, yun yung mga naririnig nila that yung support ng mga media personalities or yung mga influencers. On the other hand, dito sa Balance Luzon, sa NCR, there's a lot of lumalabas na parang negative news or talking points or opinion about them. So ito yung naka-affect ng numbers naman nila dito negatively. So ganun siya it's partly yung baluarte nila and partly yung news na lumalabas sa because there are geographic differences sa news delivery and sa mga public opinion.
Sir, yung perception nyo ng pagbaba, kasi you conducted a survey at the time na pinaka-vocal si VP Sara, di ba? Yan yung pinaka-palaban siya that period eh. Pero, and you think siya mismo ang isang malaking dahilan sa pagbaba ng trust rating. Pero how much of that was affected by the Quadcom investigation? Hindi lang yung Quadcom wala, pati yung sa Committee on Good Government that directly focused on her, yung paggamit niya ng confidential funds niya, yung sa both OVP saka yung sa Department of Education. Ano sa tingin niyo yung mas malaki ba yung weight nun? Kasi I'm asking because sabi ng Quadcom, si Congressman Abante, itutuloy pa raw ng Quadcom eh. Meron pa raw silang mga ibang kailangang linawin doon sa mga issues na yon involving the Dutertes.
Actually, Ami, yeah, those are good points, and I think it's a combination of both. And pag titingnan natin yung pag-i-track natin yung since we do the survey quarterly, una nag-surface yung mga yung mga hearings about the confidential funds and the intel funds sometime nung 2023, I think. And that's also the time na talagang nag-start na rin ma-affect yung numbers ni Vice President because of the confidential funds. But I think at that time, she was still seeing baka mga 70 sa trust and performance niya. So, kumbaga, the confidential funds and the intel funds have started to have an effect on her numbers even nung 2023. Pero yung most recent one, like yung November of last year, yun din yung mga about, yung mga Quadcom hearings and about yung pinasapina nila and all these items na nangyari, which led up to yung Chief of Staff ni Vice President being subpoenaed. And I think those events na nangyari at that time, we saw a further decrease in numbers kasi at that time, noong October, she was still seeing 59% trust. That's about 6 out of 10. And now it's about half. So parang nawawala siya ng 1 out of 10 Filipinos being nako-convert bigla. Or hindi man nako-convert, pero na may influence ng mga pangyayari dito na nakikita natin. So I think it's a combination of those things, pero her numbers had already decreased even ng 2023 when we started talking about the confidential funds. But now, it's actually less than 50% na 49% yung trust.
Prof, let me ask you naman I know you're a mathematician, but let me ask you now not just about political probabilities but as well about mathematical probabilities in the future. This month we expect, of course, I'm sure you saw yesterday's the images from yesterday's rally na Iglesia ni Cristo. Massive crowds in Ataloneta and in certain parts of the country. And then there are other rallies slated for this month. Mag-rally ata yung mga pro-impeachment naman. January 30, no, Ami? January 31.
Yes.
January 31. Yeah, January 31. So you will have these rallies, maybe different sizes of crowds, maybe different temperatures of crowds, or different tempers as well. I'm wondering, gaano ba kalaki kaya ang impact ng mga rally na ito dun sa public perception? I'm talking, of course, the possibility of bandwagon effect. Alam mo yun, yung pag mukhang maraming supporter ng isang tao, dumadami tuloy lalo ang mga supporter. Yung ganun ba? Is that something that we could see after the end of this month? Or when you do your first quarter surveys after the first quarter? Is this something that could affect yung numbers?
Well, definitely. And yung Filipinos, we tend to have that bandwagon effect. And even sa pag kumakain tayo sa mga restaurants, naririnig ko minsan, ay, huwag tayo kumain dyan, walang tao eh. Tapos gusto, gusto nila kumain sa mga
maraming tao.
Yung mga puno na restaurant, pipila pa. Makikisiksik pa, makikipila. Kahit may waiting list, kahit okay, pang 5 kayo sa table, tsatsagain kaysa doon sa ibang restaurant na wala masyadong kumakain. Because, siguro yung perception is, ay siguro masarap dyan kaya marami kumakain.
Or there's also survival instinct. It's also survival instinct.
Yes. Survival
Pero
instinct.
does it
Ganun
work
din
for
tayo.
religious groups? Kasi kahit yung sa Davao, hindi nga sumama yung yung Kingdom of Jesus
KOJC.
Christ Magkakaibang grupo yan You know, if you're going to
Magkakaiba
have a
nga.
show of force na religious group, hindi sasama dyan yung iba. And ang pinakamalaki pa rin namang grupo dito sa Pilipinas, although there's no such thing as a Catholic vote nga, yung Roman Catholic pa rin. Di ba? Meron bang impact yan? Meron bang ganong bandwagon effect?
Well, sa political preference, minsan may mga ganyang parang bandwagon effect. And I'm not saying na it's going to come into play here necessarily. Sabi ko lang in general, I subscribe na meron yung bandwagon effect. Sometimes Filipinos will, we know that about 20% of Filipinos choose their candidates on the day of the election. So minsan,
Yes.
andyan yung bandwagon effect. Parang titingin siya sa nanay niya or sa katabi niya, sino ba boboto mo? Ito na lang boboto ko. I mean, not for all candidates, pero for some candidates. So, bandwagon effect is real. Now, the question is, magkakaroon ba ng bandwagon effect dito sa, because of the rally? From history, we know that this religious group has traditionally opposed yung mga impeachments. I mean, even at the time of ERAP.
Yeah, they had a large rally nung panahon ni ERAP, pro-ERAP. I remember that as well,
Yes,
sa
Na-impeach
Quirino
pa rin
Grandstand.
si Erap.
Yeah, so,
Na-impeach pa rin si
kumbaga,
Erap.
yes, hindi nag-come into play yung bandwagon effect. So, it depends rin gaano kalakas yung boses ng kunyari ng crowd who are, gunning for impeachment. So, yun nga. And siguro, the rally na upcoming, we will get a sense of, how strong that rally is. Kasi, kunyari, yung parang rally of support for the Duterte na nangyari, kunyari sa EDSA, I mean, we didn't see a lot of people there sa EDSA shrine. So it reflects din naman sa numbers that their base of support in NCR, for example, has declined significantly. But yun nga, yung bandwagon effect, we'll see it din. I mean, may bandwagon effect, but we'll see which one's the bigger bandwagon, kumbaga. So it depends rin or kung balance sila. Yeah, I mean, and in this day and age, medyo na rin mga Filipinos, they tend to, they see social media, they tend to think more for themselves now compared to in the past.
Pero yung mga surveys nyo, you're a statistician, hindi naman, it doesn't consider religious, di ba? Religious sentiment. Generalized yung mga, yung mga surveys na I mean, demographic yan hindi siya based on religious beliefs.
We see the religious choice, kasi kunyari, we can see how many of Catholics voted this way, we can see how many of...
Hindi, kapag ganun yung survey, pero yung mga ganyang general, siya, yung neutral siya, di ba? Faith neutral siya. Kapag ganyan mga trust rating, I'm talking about the trust ratings, it's faith neutral. Di ba?
Yeah, kasi unlike yung mga political, kunyari, voting preferences, it tends to sway in terms of groups. Dahil minsan may command at the top of the system na nagsasabing or nagsasuggest na, okay, maybe we should vote for these people. Pero sa ito, so yes, you're right. Medyo mas neutral siya, but big rallies may still have an effect on how people decide or think. So again, I think we will see pa. I can't answer that now. What I'm saying is may affect sila, but how big of the effect is hindi ko pa masasabi right now until we measure it siguro next month pag nakita natin yung effect nito. Kung mag-change man kung gumalaw yung baso, kumbaga, at mag-change yung sentiment of the people towards them.
Okay. Okay, maraming salamat for joining Storycon this afternoon, OCTA Research Fellow Dr. Guido David. Thank you, sir, for your time.